All right, they want me to get in the, are you gonna join? What's my number?
Oh, it is, I'm sorry, 280-895-243.
280
Oh, yeah, 895
895
243.
243.
There you are.
Yay! Okay.
All right.
And then if this works, and if this works,
Perfect. It's looking good.
We're seeing it.
All right. So are we good with audio as well?
we are not good with audio, but we're gonna
We're gonna
make that
go.
work.
Okay,
We're gonna make that till we make it. So,
we're gonna go. So let me
so
just quickly thank everybody for coming. And thank you, Tim, for coming to share your work with us. This is the last teaching and technology session for this fall. We'll start with a new series of sessions in spring, so we'll be sending out a call for proposals before finals week. So watch for the call for proposals. Help yourself to snacks. What else, Christy? It's the end of the semester. I don't have a whole lot to say.
Well, we'll be having some wild horses, rapid course design stuff, but like the last, like final. So if you're getting ready for next semester and you need a little help with that, that's a good time. And we also have, continue to have our afternoon touch sessions on Mondays and Thursdays that you can come to get help as you get to the end of the semester and something didn't work the way you thought it did, or if you're thinking about next semester, you want to try something new exciting.
Cool.
So yeah.
All right.
All right.
Take it away, Tim. Thank you.
fantastic. So thank you very much. I do have one quick question. What time do you want to stop talking here?
So the
We
session,
have this room until 1:30.
the session goes technically to 1:30. So
So I go for an hour and a half.
So you can decide how it wants. And usually some people just leave around 1-ish. So
I better stop by 1-ish or else I'll be offended here.
yeah, you'll be like, why are they leaving?
All right.
That's what happens.
So I'm glad to see you guys all here. What I'd like to talk to you about today is a process for which I'm trying to get constant engagement with my students. How do I keep my students thinking about the courses I'm teaching? How do I keep them engaged? How do I keep them mentally thinking about and growing throughout the course of the semester? And I have to confess, the reason I started doing this is because I was being a complete failure in some of the classes I was teaching in terms of keeping my students with me. And so I started swinging around for a variety of ideas. I'm certainly not an expert in what I'm going to be sharing with you. I'm going to tell you about my experiences with it and what's worked and what hasn't worked very well. So here, if you just give me something, let me check my text messages here. Let's see here. I mean, maybe you guys have students that are always in class checking their text messages. Do you have that experience at all? When they're picking up their phone in your class, what are they doing with it? What are they doing?
It appears they're not paying attention to what you're saying.
They're not paying attention to what you're saying, okay. But what are they paying attention to? What's on their phone that they're so darn interested in?
Facebook.
Facebook could be. What else?
Variety of any social media.
Any of the social media. Twitter, Facebook, Gab. Are any of you on Gab yet? No? Okay.
They're doing homework on their phones.
They could be doing homework on their phones, sure.
My student doesn't look up dictionaries.
They could be looking up dictionary terms, you bet. Right? So they could be doing school-related stuff, or they might not be doing school-related stuff. So which is it? You don't know.
Right.
Usually if they're laughing, it's not school.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So they could be texting with their friends about how terrible the class could be. They could be texting with their friends about ride arrangements. It turns out that when people do studies of college students' text messages, a tremendous number have to do with arranging rides and pickups and transportation. Sometimes for silly reasons and sometimes for relatively serious reasons. Or they could just be playing games, a whole variety of things they could be doing to keep themselves entertained because whatever's happening in the classroom isn't capturing their attention as much as you might like it to. But as you said, sometimes you can tell whether or not they're doing class stuff by if they're laughing or not, right? And so you might have noticed that when you see students, you may not be able to see their cell phones. They might have it down underneath their table. You can see if they're looking down all the time. I mean, this is a parent thing, right? If your teenage kids are texting at the dinner table, you can always tell because they're looking down. In fact, they make this funny kind of shape, this arced over shape, which may have a lot to do with why that's the Facebook symbol. It's because it means you're looking down. If you're driving down the Grand Avenue and you look over at the car next to you and the person's looking down, you know, they're probably looking at their cell phone there. So let's see if we can figure out what to do about this. So I want you to think about for a minute, let's suppose that some people have very strict cell phone policies in their class about no cell phone usage in the classroom whatsoever. Why would you prefer that your students not be using cell phones in class? Let's see if we get a bunch of ideas here.
If it's taking them away from the content you're sharing, then that's not the best use of it.
So one reason you might not want them doing it is they're not paying attention to you or paying attention to what's going on in class. Good. What's another reason you might not want them to have cell phones?
Mary Keller online said there's no such thing as multitasking. The brain can only do one thing at a time.
That is absolutely true. And students constantly are convinced that they can multitask. And study after study after study demonstrates they can't. And you can even do these experiments with students in your class, showing them about multitasking, what they can do and what they can't do, and they still don't believe you. They still won't necessarily change their habits. Right? So one reason you wouldn't want them multitasking.
So they, not only will they not be paying attention, but they might have things that they could contribute and teach others as well, right? So it's not just paying attention to you, but helping others.
So if you have a classroom set up where there's peer instruction going on, and you have students looking at their cell phone, they're not engaging with the person next to them. They're socially engaged, just not with your people. All right, well, let's change this for a minute. What are some reasons you might want to have students have their cell phones out and ready in class? You already mentioned one before, looking up vocabulary words. Excellent. Why else might you want to?
Formative feedback.
When you say formative feedback, what do you mean?
Real-time feedback, so you do quicker questions, right?
Okay, so if you're having students doing voting,
yeah.
You know, I don't know if the physics department has clickers that they buy or use the cell phone pull everywhere system.
Now, yeah.
If they already have their cell phones, might as well have them using it for a classroom purpose, and that would be answering questions, giving you feedback, right? Or themselves getting feedback. Meg, what else?
They're also inherently interested in their cell phones.
They are incredibly interested in their cell phones, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I use my cell phone for work all the time. I mean, Danny and I have an intimate connection through my cell phone, as it turns out. I use my work all the time. So it's kind of weird to think about we're training students to live in the world in which for 50 minutes a day they can't touch their cell phone. That's a little bit weird because we all use them for work all the time. Well, it turns out if you get online and you go stand by the water cooler, you go to teaching conferences, people have incredibly violent arguments about whether or not cell phones should be allowed in the classroom or not. And I would make a big deal of this, except it's been an election year, and so I can no longer say it's a incredibly violent argument because I'm watching people over the election have incredibly violent arguments that are much more serious than cell phones. So I don't want to get into that, but let's talk about students with their cell phones outside of class. I don't know if you could walk around campus. Every student's got their cell phone out within reach. I have teenage kids. My teenage kids constantly have their cell phone very, very close to their chest. If they had to put their cell phone down to recharge for half an hour, they completely are beside themselves with that. So I know that they got their cell phone with them at all times, which means that I may be able to use that to my advantage to help them learn stuff outside of class. It's kind of like this concept of Tai Chi, you learn if somebody's coming rushing at you and they're getting ready to hit you, you take their energy and you use it against them. It's the same sort of idea. Maybe I can use their addiction to their cell phones to actually teach them something. All right, so let's do a case study. So let's imagine for an instance, and I had this task given to me once. Imagine you're teaching a class, and your class assignment is to teach a large lecture class, 300 students. And your assignment is to do it on Monday nights from 7 to 10 p.m. So once a week, 300 students on Monday nights. What are some of the challenges you might have if you had that task given to you?
3 hours.
What do you mean 3 hours?
Keeping students engaged for 3 hours.
That's a lot,
And
isn't
yourself.
it? And yourself. I mean, I like to listen to myself talk, but even after 3 hours, I get a little tired of hearing myself talk. What else is challenging about having 300 students all once a week.
And then the 7-day gap, right?
You got a 7-day gap. What happens during that 7-day gap?
Yeah, nothing.
Absolutely nothing, right? On Sunday night, they quickly get together and they do their homework. If you even assign homework in a 300-student class. Me and my colleagues have given up assigning homework in a large class like this because 300 students means you got 300 pieces of paper. It's a tremendous grading load. Right? Now, why do we assign homework in the first place? Because we want them learning stuff outside of class. We want them continuously thinking about what's going on in class. And so that's why one of the reasons why we assign homework, but the load can be huge on us. So that's another reason. So keeping them and paying attention for 3 straight hours, dealing with being able to give them homework for 3 that they don't just do, that you can actually manage. All right, let's look at a different one here. Here's a different. Suppose you've been assigned to teach a distance learning course, an asynchronous, which means you don't have any face-to-face time, online course, and you got to cover 16 chapters in a traditional textbook in 16 weeks. What are some of the challenges that you'd encounter if that was your teaching assignment? Any of you teach distance learning courses? Okay, good. I want you to imagine for a second what that might be like. I can tell you some of my experience. I've been doing this for 20 years. All right. So when I first started teaching distance learning courses, what we actually did are taught correspondence courses. Now, if you take a correspondence course, you know what it's like, right? You send kids the textbook and you send them homework. You say, read the textbook and answer all the questions in the back of the book and mail them in. Right? Now, when we did these correspondence courses, what we found was the dropout rate or the non-completion rate was about 90%. 90%. Which the university thought was cool because they have to collect the tuition and keep the tuition, but from a accountability perspective was terrible. So we said, you know what, maybe instead of actually sending out all the stuff in boxes through the mail, maybe what we should do is we should actually pass it through the computer. So students could read the stuff on the computer and they could do their homework on Word, they could email us back in. And they could do that every week. It would be very, very strict. Every Monday you've got to submit your homework assignment. You know what happened? Again, we got a 90% dropout rate. Now, I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen a lot of my students drop out and myself be a complete failure. I mean, I'm talking about, you recognize these symbols here? I'm maybe much older than you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. We taught this with Netscape and Mosaic, right? But again, a complete failure. Now, when you go and you try to understand why do students drop out of correspondence courses at such huge rates, what we find out is that they feel completely alone. They're completely by themselves. They have very little engagement with the professor other than getting feedback on their tests. And that's only when they send them in. So the problem with teaching this distance learning course is actually the same problem as teaching the 300 students just on one night a week. How do you keep them thinking about the course? How do you keep them thinking about each other? How do you keep them learning? Sort of thing. So this was my challenge that I'm trying to figure out a way to overcome. Yes?
This is right in line with what you're saying. Barry Keller said one of the concerns is losing your most vulnerable students and students not getting the juju of physical and nonverbal communication.
That's right. Oh my gosh, absolutely true. There's something about this face-to-face interaction that really matters. Right? Now, we're still, the University of Wyoming and many other universities are committed to teaching distance learning courses. They are here to stay. And there are advantages and disadvantages of that. But when I think about teaching 300 students, I don't know if you've been to these large lecture halls that we have over in the classroom building with 300 seats in them, right? You got kids all the way in the back. That's distance learning, right? You know, they're 40 feet away from you. They can barely hear you. They're really a long way away. So my question that I was trying to solve was, how do I get constant engagement, both through those 300 students that I only see once a week and my distance learning students? How do I get that? So I tried a bunch of different things. And maybe you've tried some of these things too. First thing I did was I said, I want every student, you're required, as one of your homework assignments, to email me a question. And by sending me an email, I get to start to have a dialogue with students. We email back and forth. This email exchange has turned into 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 10 emails. So I got to talk to my students through email, but it was completely unstructured. And it was actually really hard because 300 students times 6 emails, well, that just got to be a ton of emails. So I didn't like that. So then this thing called Facebook came on. All my kids were using Facebook, so I said, all right, I bet my students are too. I'm going to make a Facebook page, and I'm going to post all kinds of stuff to my Facebook page. But when you watch students, or your children, play on Facebook, what are they doing? They're doing this constantly, right? They're not just getting information from your class, they're getting information from their 5 other classes they're taking, all their news groups they're interested in, all their social groups they're interested in. There's a tremendous amount of information flying across that phone. And my class was just one of those many pages they were seeing. So I decided that didn't work. So then I used Twitter. So I started tweeting in my class. How many of you guys have a Twitter account? All right, most of you have Twitter accounts. Don't do it, man. Don't you do it. Wait for Gab, it'll be better. Same thing, right? If you're looking at your Twitter feed, you're getting, hundreds of messages per hour. And again, I wasn't standing out. So the problem I was facing here was my students are getting deluged with information because of this device, and I wasn't special in any way. So I said to myself, oh gosh, how can I be special? Because it's our need to feel special that brings out the best of us and the worst of us, according to Janet Jackson. So how can I be special? How can I get my students' attention? So I'm thinking, well, when I'm teaching class, what makes students actually reach for their cell phone? Is it really that they're bored? Is it really that they need some information? I said, no. The reason they reach for their cell phone is because it buzzes at them. They get a notification. Right? When somebody texts them, they pick up. In fact, if you ever text your spouse and your spouse doesn't text you right back, he's like, what's going on here? Because we pay attention because of the notifications that come up. So I said, I need a way to text my students. Well, you might say, well, what kind of things might I text to my students? Well, examples are, hey, tomorrow there's a homework assignment due. You might start thinking about it now. Heads up. I don't want you to forget there's a homework assignment. Or maybe there's I've had several students come to my office hours. No, really. Imagine students came to your office hours. Had students come to your office hours, and you find out that there's a consistent problem. They're getting a lot of missing a minus sign, for example, in a math problem, where they're missing a particular theme. You can save yourself a lot of time by saying, hey, item number 2, the right answer is not. If you got that, decide to evaluate. Or sometimes in textbooks, not mine, of course, there occasionally are typos and things need to be fixed. And this is one way to tell them when they need it, not at the beginning of the semester, but right there before the homework's come out. Or when I'm teaching astronomy, there's a lot of really cool things that go on in the sky. How many of you saw the supermoon this past week? Was it cool looking?
Yeah.
Totally cool looking. Imagine you want to remind your students, there's a supermoon. But the supermoon is on Friday, but you only have class on Monday nights. So here's a way to tell them the supermoon's going on. Or let's suppose there's something that just came out in the news. There's a brand new news article in the New York Times. There's a brand new opportunity to a book signing that's going to happen in your town if you're teaching literature class. My case might be, go outside right now. You can look out to the south and you can see the International Space Station go over. Time dependent. Right this very instant. Some of these things are things that just come up that I wish I could tell my students about in class session right now. But if I send them a text message, then boom, I got it. Or maybe they're things I can plan for the whole semester. So I get out my astronomy book and I say, okay, during September, here's all the cool things in the sky. In October, here's all the cool things in the sky. Or I know that every Wednesday I've got a homework assignment they're going to be turning in. So every Tuesday, I can send them a reminder. There are some things that happen spontaneously, and some things, my favorite things, are things that I can pre-program ahead. So I want you to imagine for a second, you had the power to text all of your students. I want you to tell me 3 things that you might text to your students in your environment. In fact, I'm going to think of this myself here. Get an instant. Tell your students something. Right now, right this instant. When you're in the middle of this workshop here, your students aren't anywhere around. What's something you could tell your students?
Mary says religion in the news. She teaches religion.
Oh, perfect. That's a really good example.
Weekly due dates, she says.
Weekly due dates.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I use those all the time.
Reminders.
This week's homework assignment is going to take extra time. Better get started on it a couple of days early. Right? You tell them that in class, right? But you got to wait until a few days before you have a chance to tell them.
By the way, while you're working on this assignment, here's something you really got to be thinking
Oh, sure, making outside connections. News articles are always a really good one, like this religion in the news. I need 2 more.
You've got feedback.
Pardon me?
You've got feedback.
Oh, there's feedback waiting for you. I finished grading up. I've uploaded all the grades. Go check and be sure your grades are right. Oh, that's a good one. Do you hate it when they come in a week later and say, I just now discovered? You've already started doing something else?
Or other, oh, go
You
ahead.
forgot.
I mean, the university does this, right? We have an emergency text line, so if their power goes out on campus, they can tell faculty, don't come to campus. Or actually, they never tell us that. They just say there's no water and there's no heat. We expect you in your seat. Anyway.
Our other online person said new medications on the market.
New medications on the market. Oh, absolutely. That's a really, really good one. So, the university has this system, I forget what it's called, UW Alert or something like that. And they pay a crap ton of money for that system. It's not free. It costs them a lot. But they find it to be pretty valuable. So I wondered, will UW Alert let me use their system? No, not at all. So I need an option that doesn't require me to go through and enter in all my students' cell phone numbers into my phone and then text them. A couple of problems with that. Number one, then they have my cell phone number, and I don't want my students to have my cell phone number. Excuse me. So here's the solution that I happen to find. It's not the only solution out there. It's a software platform. It was designed for high schools so that teachers could communicate with parents. It's called Remind.com. And Remind.com, when you go to Remind.com, and you can do this now if you want to do this, what happens is you go in and you can create a class name. Astro 1050. No, that's probably already taken. Or Art 101. Oh, that's probably already taken. But you can come up with a class name and a class code that you can create. In fact, you can do this right now if you want to do that. It just takes a moment to do. Just go to Remind.com and log in. You have to create an account if you want to do it. And you can create a class. And if you want, you can have a cute class code. So for example, when I'm doing this workshop, I have a code called CAPER class. CAPER stands for the Center for Astronomy and Physics Education Research, which is the class name is called CAPER Teaching Seminar. And all I have to do is enter that in and I hit create. And you have to check the button about 13-year-old students. I don't know why. I don't know what the technical aspect of 13 is related to that. You can also affiliate your class with the University of Wyoming if you wanted to, so people can find your class. So you can set that up if you like. And then all you do is you tell your students what your class code is. For example, if it's CAPER class. And you tell your students, hey, I need you to text a message to 81010. And that message should say @CAPER class. And they're immediately signed up. Now, if they don't have a phone, you can also get it to go to an email account. That works pretty good. You can also get it to go to, say there's text messages, emails, and one other place it can go, which I kind of forgot. But most of my students are using text messages. That's what started me down this road. Let's see here. So I wonder if I can hook up here. I may actually be able to do this. So let's try this. If you got your cell phone with you, I want you to text @CAPER class to 81010. You don't have to sign up for an account or anything like that. It's so easy, even a physicist can do it. Just text @CAPER class to 81010. And you might get a message back asking, do you really want to do this? Confirmation. My cell phone just start beeping us. Let's see here. Janelle signed in. Where's Janelle? All right. Aaron's in. Where's Aaron? All right, Aaron. Now the cool thing is, I don't know your cell phone number, and you don't know mine. It's a double-blind system. And that was put in place because this was designed for high schools to use. And high school teacher often has 150, 180 students. It's a lot to keep track of. So you want a software platform to do this. Hillary's in. Where are you, Hillary? All right. Did you have to do a confirmation? Did it send you and say, hey, do you really want this? Where's Mary?
There's one that
Mary's
says,
online.
Oh, hey, Mary. Now I'm going to show you how easy it is to send a message to my students. You can do it from your phone, from an app, or you can go to a website. So here's my my website. Retry. What if I'm connected to the internet here?
It's showing up on the, just hit escape on your.
You're in
PowerPoint,
Zoom,
which
so
is
you
behind.
Oh, that's right. So it would have to be, wouldn't I?
Just hit escape so you're out of the PowerPoint.
Oh, is that what it's thinking
I think that's
about?
what it's doing.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're, since people are seeing.
There we go. So then all I have to do is I can hit the send message, and boom, all 4 of you that are signed up should have a text message within moments. Don't worry, you don't have to stop. I'll delete you all when this is all over, which is also kind of cool because at the end of the semester, you can delete all your students out of your account, and you've got a clean account. Start all over again. And say, is it lunchtime? And it comes up and buzzes on your phone, and it looks different than a Twitter notification or a Facebook notification, or even your standard SMS messages. Right? So students will notice that, which I think is totally cool. You can also pre-schedule when you want to have these. So I can say, don't forget to eat dinner tonight. And I can actually schedule that and say, for example, at 6 p.m., 6 p.m. I can send you a note that says, don't forget to eat dinner tonight. Ooh, yeah. And I can do that for all semester. Every Tuesday I can say, hey, you got a homework assignment coming up. Or if I know it's a long one, I'll do it on a Monday. I might send that message, or even a few days earlier. That is how easy this system is to use. It means even a physicist can use it. It's kind of cool. All right, where did that go? Now, is this the only system out there? Absolutely not. There's got to be a ton of these things out there. But I kind of like Rewind for a couple of reasons. One reason I really like Rewind is that they pay me to come tell you about it. No, that's not true. I'm sure there are others out there, but it had to be the first one that I found. And it seems to be very stable. I've used it now for about 3 semesters, and it works really, really well. Do I have 100% of my students sign up for it? No, I don't. So whatever reason, students don't want to sometimes, and that's okay. You know, it's a voluntary thing. I can't force them to do that. I can sign my students up. If I know their cell phone number or know their email, I could actually sign them up without their permission. But that's probably a bad idea, so I don't do that. As I said before, it's private. You don't know my cell phone number. I don't know your cell phone numbers. I just know your name and you're signed up with my class. So privacy issues get taken care of there. Also, you have 2 different settings. One setting is it's always transmit. I'm always sending. You can't reply to that message and have it come to me. If you try to reply to it, nothing happens. But I can set it up so you can reply to me, or you can reply to the whole class. If you have 10 people in class, that might seem to be a reasonable thing to do. If you have 300 people in class, I don't know if you'd want to do that or not. I haven't had the guts to try that one yet. Yes?
I have a question about that. Can you control that at the level of individual text messages, or is that global to an account?
Global to an account. Though I've never actually looked. So it could be. You know, these things go, they make enhancements all the time on it. So it's possible. But the other thing is, if you send something after hours, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, it'll come up with a warning that says, hey, do you know that it's kind of late at night? You may want to reconsider sending this message. You should be sleeping. It doesn't. Siri would tell you should be sleeping. I really like the fact you can pre-schedule. For most of the semester, I already have all my text message scheduled. It's free, doesn't cost nothing. Best I can tell, there's no malware to it, though who knows. Maybe in-app ads, there may be, I don't know, found that. But once I get it all set up, I just use it again and again and again. So that's kind of cool. And if you really would like to see how this works, I run a blog for the Society of College Science Teachers, which is a sort of a monthly how to teach idea. And so if you wanted to sign up to get a notification every time I've updated my blog, just text at 81010 at SCST blog, Society of College Science Teachers blog. So if you'd like to do that, then you can get updates when I have something.
So how do you get out of that SCST blog? How do you unsubscribe?
Text. I don't know. That's a great question. I think you probably just text stop. 81010. I don't know.
Actually, it told me when I signed up.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah?
It said, why stop or text at leave to leave all of this person's classes.
Mm.
Yeah, and there's stop to cancel.
There is a stop to cancel. And of course, students are used to this, right? They know all these communication systems. I would have to look it up to know to text stop. By the way, if you ever get, I'm starting to now get spam coming on my text messages. People, hey, new sale on headphones. Get a new hairstyle, new haircut. You can just reply with stop, and sometimes that'll go away. All right, so just a couple other uses what I found really useful for Remind. As I mentioned before, you use it for class, but I also use it for conferences. So I run a number of conferences around the country, and so I have my conference attendees sign up, and I can say, hey, the coffee's hot, come on over, or the invited talk's about to start, or they're, hey, we ran out of donuts, but there'll be more at 5 o'clock, sort of thing. So I can send messages not just to my students, I can also send to conference attendees. You might be able to do it to department people. It might be a new way to send out messages about the TNT program. Just new ways to get people's attention, because you get hundreds of emails, Facebook feed's full, your Twitter feed is full. How can you stand out a little bit? And this seems to work pretty well for that. As I mentioned before, I use it for my classes, and that's what I hope that you'll give it a try. But I also use it for workshops. So, for example, just a minute, I sent a text to tell you when to have dinner, to remind you to have dinner tonight. If we had all taken a coffee break, I could say, hey, coffee break's over, come on back. So you could use it during workshops as well. It's kind of endless the different ways you can use this, and it doesn't seem to harm anything. So I know that there's a million different things you can try in terms of becoming a better teacher. I don't know if this will make you a better teacher, but it's at least the strategy that I found works well for me to keep in front of my students. So I can keep them thinking about the course concepts, I can keep them thinking about the syllabus and what needs to happen next and what they should be doing, so I can reach some level of constant engagement. And with that, snack time. Snack time. Snack time. And of course, I'll answer any questions that you have as I get my snack.
Have you found a way to use this in class? It seems like it's all outside of class, right? So,
I have not tried this, but because you can pre-schedule times, imagine you're teaching your class at 10 a.m. on Monday, and at 10:15, you want to pass the students a question. You can either do it from your cell phone in real time, or you can pre-program it. So I don't know about you, but sometimes I get off on tangents, and I kind of forget where I am. So you can imagine pre-programming an event or an activity the students are supposed to do at 10:20.
Or what about just-in-time teaching where you feed them a question 60 minutes before class?
This would be perfect for that, right? Because right now the students have to go to a website, and they got to remember to go to a website.
They're not going to check the email.
They're not going to check the email. So 60 minutes before class, you could send them a poll everywhere question. Right?
Yeah. That's
click on, because you can put links. You can put links into your message. I lost it here. Where to go? Yeah. So you can put links into your messages. So for example, on Tuesday nights, I meet with my PhD students. So about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I send them a remind message that's got the URL for that night's Zoom class, for that night's Zoom meeting. So they know what they're, by email or by phone, they already have sort of just in time at what address they can find the video teleconference. So that works really well. for me. But you could probably figure out, you could do it in class by sending out your, the app's really easy to use. So you could do it during class, or you could pre-program it. All of a sudden at 10:49, you could say, don't pack up yet, class isn't over.
Do you have a sense of roughly what percentage of your students actually join the group?
Yeah, it tells you. It gives you their name. It tells you. Did you guys have to enter your name? Yeah, you guys entered your name.
Yeah.
So yeah, it maintains that list. So I can see who all's in the class and who all's either in the group.
And so, and then you can text individual people.
And I believe you can text individual people. Yes.
And so, what's your experience in terms of participation?
Well, I teach almost only graduate courses, and so they're scared of me, so I get 100%. But people tell me that they get really large numbers because students, they're already texting, and the number of students that have any concerns about their own privacy or worries about their own privacy is small. So I think people tell me they get really, really large participation. What always surprises me is when I know somebody's addicted to their cell phone, but they have it sent to their email instead of their cell phone. Seems a little weird. But, particularly if you have foreign graduate students, they may be more comfortable with email than they are with cell phone. Maybe.
But their mail's on their phone anyway.
But I know. Yeah. I mean, there may be concerns, if they have to pay 10 cents per message. So you're always supposed to give the disclaimer of, in fact, it may have even come across a disclaimer automatically. There may be charges associated with this. So.
Are you concerned of, one of the things that students, they don't use email near as much to start with, but they also don't use it partly because there's so much of it. Have you ever had any concerns for students who are receiving text? If we all started doing this, would they get overwhelmed?
I'm sure they would. I mean, just like there's bad distance learning practices where faculty will say you have to post to this discussion group 15 times every week. It's So I'm sure there's a way to overdo it. I try to only do about one syllabus-related thing and one cool-related thing each week. I really wasn't planning on using it for the syllabus at all. I was really planning on saying, hey, it's clear tonight. If you go outside at 7:30 and you look to the south, you're going to be able to see the planet Mars. So that's really what got me interested in doing it in the first place. I just found the syllabus thing to be a nice add-on.
And do you do it, you said you could make it so that it was set to send just to them, with like a one-way type thing, or they could all send to each other?
Yep.
Have you done both of those?
I'm scared to do anything but just transmit.
It's a good plan. I actually have this. It's also useful if you're doing it.
Yeah, or imagine you had a group project you were trying to manage. You could set up small groups, and so you have students texting, maybe a group of 4, and you include yourself on that loop so you can watch the discussion going on.
I thought about using Twitter sort of as a way to crowdsource. So
yeah?
particularly in my online class. So, when you have students who are out there posting questions about how do I do this, or where do I find such and such, and I'm not always in a position where I can respond so that they could
That's right. That's
work
huge.
together better. I think that texting actually may be a better way to do that simply because
There's so much noise in Twitter.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary, do the cheapest, oldest phones receive these texts? And thinking about the digital divide.
I believe so. I'm not sure you can get a phone that doesn't receive that can't receive text message. I have colleagues that do not have it turned on, and I admire them, and I wish I was one of them. But,
my phone, I have a track phone, and it's the hand-me-down from the rest of my family.
That sounds like
it gets texts, but it's a pain to text.
Oh, it's because you got to do
it's got like 3 letters.
It doesn't have a QWERTY keyboard. It is hard to find a phone that doesn't have a QWERTY keyboard on it these days. So.
The other thing is, phone like yours, Jeff, I imagine that if people are sending emojis or anything graphical, that it or links translates it into garbage.
Yeah.
But you can access these online.
Yeah, I'm certainly sensitive to the digital divide. I suspect it's a bigger issue with email than it actually is with text messages. So I think probably more people have a cell phone than they have a computer. But that says, I don't know.
That's actually borne out from what.
Oh, yeah? That would make sense. I mean, anytime I travel internationally, everybody's got a cell phone. Even when there's no electricity and no running water, they still have a cell phone.
It'd be fun if you could set it up so that, I'm thinking of doing this just in time before every
Well, that's
class.
a really good idea.
But what if you could like have it randomized where each day 3 different students are set up to talk to each other, and you're meeting new students, and
Learning Catalytics does this. So Learning Catalytics does this. Have you played with this? So that's someone you should have come give a talk. So it's a Pearson product and it's expensive. But it's called Learning Catalytics. And it's all cell phone based, and you can manage a class of 300 people exactly as that. You can have this person paired with this person on a group project, this person with this person. It's like you can sketch like graphs on answers, or it has you put up an image and say, all right, I want you to touch where you think the leg bone is. And you can get a heat map. It's the next. If you're sort of on the bleeding edge of this stuff, Learning Catalytics system is slick.
That costs money.
Yeah, it's like mastering physics. It's a subscrition. Students have
For
to
all
pay,
the students.
$69 each or something like that. But
Sounds cool.
it is cool. I don't know how we could talk about publishing all day, right? Publishers are in a mess. They got to find some way to stand out, particularly with all the OpenStax free textbooks. And so they're trying anything they can with the online homework systems, the online interaction systems. And they've gotten really, really good. Learning Catalytics, so it was designed by Eric Mazur, who sold it to Pearson for an undisclosed amount of millions of dollars. The first number was a 2. And I think it had more than 6 figures. So anyway, just a fun thing that you might try. You can also set it up with your family as well. So, if your Thanksgiving's coming up, you're trying to coordinate 14 people's schedules. You want to be able to say, the pumpkin pie is done at this time, be here to cut apples at this time. So I actually use it for family stuff too. The conference one's been the neatest because more than you want to know. I'm going to tell you anyway because I'm standing in the front like this all the time. So we were running an archaeoastronomy conference in Hawaii, and we had 40 people split into 4 vans. And so we're we have to drive an hour and a half to different parts of the island. So what we would do is we would sit there as we're driving, we would give a driving tour. If you look on your right now, you'll be able to see this particular mountain. If you look to your left over here, you'll be able to see this particular kind of lava rock, which is really pretty neat. Or this is an old tree over here. And so we actually used it kind of like a tour guide. So one of us would sit there and text as we're driving down, and everybody,
That's cool and sad at the same time.
It's totally sad. It was fantastic. So it's not as bad as, so I was in Athens, and we were at the Parthenon. And I had my kids with them, they wanted to be texting on their phones, like, stay off your phone, stay off your phone. And so there was this tour group, and the tour group all had iPads. And it was clear they were doing a virtual tour, right? So they're at the Parthenon, and instead of looking at the Parthenon, they're there with their iPads. It's like 30 of them all doing this. So anyway, all right, I'm done.
We got a couple of comments.
Okay.
So Mary says, I have heard that at-risk students do best when they receive an actual phone call, human contact. I wonder if this service helps those who are swimming in the text world, but for at-risk students, perhaps they still need some human contact.
Yeah, human contact's everything. And when we look particularly at the STEM disciplines, and you look at students who leave science majors versus those who stay, right? What we know is it's not aptitude-based. What we know is that at some point, there was a student who was at an at-risk moment, and somebody came along, put their hand on their shoulder and said, hey, why don't you come join my research group? We meet every Tuesday at 4 o'clock, and we talk about research papers, and come join our community. And if they found a community, they stayed. If they didn't find a community, then they went to accounting. Sort of thing. So human contact is critical. This is a stopgap thing.
But it's more human than a lot of the ways.
Yeah. So it's a sales cheat, right? How do I get in front of my students and be louder than their Facebook and louder than their Twitter? So, is there everything on the page there?
That's it.
All right. Snack time. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Take care. how is your world, sir?
So Missouri had my idea years ago, huh?
Yes.
Damn it.